that clock is slow. Because it's already after 7. So we'll call our regular meeting of the Midway ISD Board of Trustees for the month of April to order. We got a full board here. We're running just a little bit behind because we've had a special call meeting before this, but we're glad we're here now. As always, we start our meetings with the pledge. Tonight we have a group from Castleman Creek Elementary.
Yes, sir. Well, good evening, Dr. Allen, President Russick, and esteemed members of the school board. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce to you our Outstanding Students of the Year nominees and our Student of the Year who will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance to start off this April school board meeting. These remarkable students have demonstrated exceptional academic performance, exemplary citizenship, and a strong commitment to their school community, and they embody the very best of Castleman Creek Elementary. And so before we proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance, please allow me to introduce each of these accomplished students, and I ask their teachers to help a little bit say a few things about them. So the first student I want to recognize tonight is Matthias Key. So Matthias is such a joy to have as a student. He's such a joy to have as a student. He's studious, he's self-motivated, and he takes others under his wing to ensure that they are all being successful. Our next student is London Boudreau. London lights up any room that she walks into and is a friend to all. She's responsible, she's trustworthy, and we at Castleman Creek just appreciate all of her hard work and dedication. Our next student is Alina Kesser. Alina is an out-of-the-box creator who constantly challenges herself to grow and reach her full potential. She's willing to step out of her comfort zone and take on numerous leadership challenges. Our next student is Isaiah Woods. Isaiah has a heart of gold and is extremely hardworking. He strives to help others who may be struggling, and he always goes above and beyond to assist his teachers. And then finally, we have Emma Park. Emma Park is our Student of the Year. She as well has a heart of gold, and she is the perfect ambassador to represent our campus, and we look forward to seeing her continued success in the years to come. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would please stand and join our students in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you may be seated. And if I may just take a quick moment to close out and just congratulate these incredible students. This will not be the last time you will see them up before the board. They have very bright futures ahead of them, and we're so incredibly proud of each one of you at Castleman Creek. Oh, yes. All righty, thank y'all.
Thank you, Dr. Glazeman. So after our pledge, we always have recognition. Let me just tell everybody, I know we got a lot of folks here, but I would ask that everybody just be polite and courteous. We'll take a short break after recognition for folks that don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting. We understand that. It's a beautiful April night. I don't blame you. I'd leave too if I could, but so we'll do that. And without further ado then, Allison Smith, you are up first for recognition, right?
Thank you. And I get to and have the pleasure of getting to introduce tonight actually our state UIL 6A robotics champions, not just finalists, but truly champions. And so I'm going to call up our group. Next up is our history-making high school robotics team. Midway Robotics Team 4707, the Midway Predators, took home first place at the UIL 6A State Robotics Tournament and won the program's first ever state title. Students, please come up to the front when I call your name, and they are going to bring as a fun extra is the actual robot, 4707. Cool. And so they're turning it on. They're going to get it going here in a second, but we'll call all the members up one at a time. So first is Noah Thambun. And hopefully I said that right. Noah, I'm getting better at it, I promise. And then I have Jay Patel, Andrew Moreland, Josh Osland. And he might be the driver, so. And then Hogan Nance. And David Flores. And then our sponsors tonight, Brady Gibson and Ben Kasarik. Colton Monksguard, come on up. Last but not least, for sure. So, and guys, this group is amazing. I know there's a lot of things I'm fixing to read about them, but getting to watch them in our new space in the CTE wing is amazing. I would love for everybody to maybe come and have a good night and show it off. But the team secured their spot in the state tournament after winning the Waco League tournament in January and excelling in the Central Regional tournament. At state, they won all 6 qualification matches used to seed teams for finals and set the high score for the tournament twice. They were also the only team out of 24 participating teams to finish the qualifying matches 6-0 and were the number 1 seed going into the elimination matches. The team's success continued as they went on to win both semifinal elimination matches and move into the finals bracket, where they won the next 2 matches, claiming the state title and setting a new Texas record for the most points scored in a single match. Is our robotics team. So you guys did an amazing job. It's been, let's see, hold on. There's another piece here. I thought there was. The team would like to extend special thanks to the Nance, Thumbun, Osland families for their support this year. Congratulations on your big win. And guys, they worked so hard. They're in there at the crack of dawn, and they're in there after everybody leaves in the evening too. So congratulations. Sure.
No, we can see. No, they're good.
Open the middle. There we go. I know. Okay.
Oh,
It ran into a chair or something. Oh,
wow.
cool. There we go. Oh.
What's the 4707 stand for?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Wow.
So every year we have a game that we have to design our robot around. And this year our challenge was that we have to pick up cones and then drop them on like 3-foot tall poles. So that's what the purpose of these poles are. So like grab and then pick up the cone and then this back one again, deposit it onto the poles.
Oh. Very cool.
Little Mr. doesn't want to be the center of attention. I said little Mr. doesn't want to be the center of attention.
And you get a ring.
And next up, I have another really large award won by a very amazing young lady. And so we're going to recognize tonight Midway High School senior Chloe Chung, who was awarded one of the highest honors presented to youth by the U.S. Congress. Chloe, please come on up. You're good. So Chloe dedicated over 1,000 hours to earning the Congressional Award Bronze Medal, which honors students for setting and working toward personally challenging goals and meeting the needs of their community. In addition to spending over 100 hours volunteering at local nonprofits, Chloe logged over 530 hours working toward her personal development goals by practicing and participating in piano competitions. She also dedicated more than 420 hours to her physical fitness goals and developing a healthier lifestyle. And she did all of that on top of her regular schoolwork. After graduation, Chloe plans to attend the University of Texas at Austin and major in government. Congratulations on your congressional award, Chloe, and the Midway community is incredibly thankful for your example of dedication and service. And she has her medal that they gave to her, so it's pretty amazing. Great job, Chloe. Next up is our state HOSA winners, and we have even more state winners to recognize tonight. 3 students from Midway High School's HOSA, Future Health Professionals chapter, were awarded at their state competition in March and qualified to compete at the HOSA International Leadership Conference this summer. In the CPR and first aid event, Sabine and Asma Ahmed, y'all go ahead and come on up. They earned first place in the area competition and won second place at the state level. At state, the duo aced a written test and were among the top 10 students to advance to the skills round. During the skills round, they performed a CPR first aid scenario in front of a panel of judges demonstrating their expertise. Congratulations. And we also have student congratulations also to Lydia Green, and I believe she's here tonight as well. And she earned a recognition for her score on a National Geographic General Chemistry test, and all 3 students will advance to represent Midway and the state of Texas in the international competition coming up in June. So congratulations, ladies. And I promise I only have one more group to recognize tonight. Our state powerlifting team, we had some great success this year. We're also excited to recognize the Midway High School powerlifting, who made an impressive showing at the state championship this year with athletes from both the boys and the girls teams qualifying to compete at the highest level in Texas. At the boys state meet, Andrew Bonner, and I believe Andrew's here, there he is, set new personal best with a 540-pound squat, 330-pound bench, and a 510-pound deadlift. So that's pretty impressive. And additionally, powerlifters Kara Rosas, is she here this evening? Aslan Mueller, Isabel Micas, I saw her, Faith Eccles. Coming up from the back is Faith Eccles, who also advanced to compete at the Girls State Meet, which is the most to ever qualify in Midway history. And tonight we have their powerlifting head coach, Brad Morgan, and assistant coaches Cody Jones and Ezra Martinez. If you guys will come up. I know Coach Morgan's here. Congratulations.
Thank you, Allison. And then for our last recognition of the night, we got the PTA Reflections Awards, and Daryl Umhofer is going to present those.
Well, thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to announce the PTA Reflections State Award winners, and we have many of them here tonight. It's our final recognition tonight before we can move on to the other meeting. We have many middle school and elementary students who received state-level honors for the PTA Reflections Contest. Each of these students submitted original works of art in response to the contest theme, I will change the world by ... in one of the following categories: dance choreography, film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. Students, when I call your name, would you please come up to the front and get your certificate? From Midway High School, we have Abigail Harris. Mia Hasbun. McKenna Potts. Yay. Emma Belijan. Tatiana Chambers. And Caitlin Peebles. Okay. From River Valley Middle School, we have Madison Wilkerson. Bailey Walker. Jaleesa Daniels. Landy Shaw. And from South Bosque Elementary School, Gretchen Getterman. Finley Davis. Ava Lalani. There you are. And Elise Shaw. And our final school to be recognized from Woodway Elementary School, Micah Hathaway. Willow Williams. And Ren Williams. Let's give all these students another round of applause. These students that you see here were selected from over 850 entries for the PTA state level. And so once again, one more round of applause just because they deserve it.
Mr. Oliver, do you have any idea when film production might have been added as a category? Is that fairly new?
Yes, it's only been a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm looking at this and remember my own kids' reflections days and just amazed at the breadth of the entries. There weren't that many dance choreography and music composition once upon a time. Y'all are a really impressive group of young people.
Thank you, Daryl. As I said, we'll take a short pause to let folks that have other things to do this evening excuse yourself. But if you want to stay, it's a public meeting. Some really good stuff going to be discussed here. But if you need to go, we understand.
As folks are leaving, I wanted to commend again Allison Smith and the high school and the sponsors and the kids for the multicultural fair this afternoon. That was some of these same folks represented, and they did a great job. I stopped at the future educators table and said, "We've got a job for you once you get out of college."
Contract right now.
All right, it was fun. It was packed.
Member have questions on the two information items? If not, we'll let Wesley start with the monthly finance report. Wesley?
Good evening, members of the board. I'll take a look at our March financial report. Page 1 of the report shows the general fund revenues and expenditures, where we are currently through our 7th month of the 12-month fiscal year. One percentage we look at is there the total expenditures of the budget. We're at 60.9%, so that's pretty reasonable since we're 60% of the way through the year, a little higher than last year, but it still is consistent with prior years. Page 2, look at our general fund revenues for the year. A couple line items there. Property taxes, we're already at close to 100% of what we've budgeted for the year, so we expect to exceed our budgeted property tax collections for the year. Also, interest income, of course, as interest rates have really risen. You could also see that in the quarterly investment report. Our actual investment interest income is quite a bit higher than what we had budgeted. Go down to page 12 of the report, shows our projection of the general fund for the current year. We're looking at a $2.5 million deficit, projecting to finish the year. And the last page of the report is our summer projects. And there's a budget amendment for the board's approval in the consent agenda for $350,000. If you'll recall, in August, we commit fund balance for long-term maintenance projects. Those are projects that don't fall in our normal operating budget or in our bond projects. So here, just the detail here just kind of shows you we're budgeting or projecting $333,000 if this budget amendment is approved. We do go throughout the year and take requests from campuses and departments and what projects need to be taken care of in the summer. We prioritize those and compare that to what we have in our committed fund balance, and then prioritize those accordingly. As you can see, the big ticket item there is the gym roof at Hewitt. It is beyond its 20-year lifespan and is leaking. Air conditioning units at the high school. There's some safety security issues, some doors, gate openers, lighting controls. The second budget amendment in the consent agenda is to increase our budget for CTE student travel costs. We just had more students qualify for post-district competition, which is a good thing, and also just an increase in travel costs throughout the state. And then a couple more items, quick legislative update. We did touch on this a little bit in our special meeting. We did get details of House Bill 100. Dr. Allen mentioned this. The substitute for House Bill 100 proposed an increase in the basic allotment for next year of $90, and then followed by another $50 increase the following year. And also, let me back up. So this is in the House. The Senate, historically, the House is a little more friendly to public school finance than the Senate. So this is kind of a typical thing. The Senate, they're kind of more focused on vouchers, education saving accounts, and property tax reduction. And the House, it gets in the more nitty-gritty of actually kind of making some changes to the school finance system. Now, in reference, if we were to increase the basic allotment, we've mentioned this before, accordingly to inflation from when House Bill 3 was passed, which set the current basic allotment, then a basic allotment would increase $900, per student. So going back into what's proposed here, $90 is something, right? But it's a far cry from really, what's needed to continue to keep up with inflation. Also, they increased the transportation allotment to $1.54 per mile instead of the current $1. That would give the district $200,000 more dollars. One interesting note is, if you'll recall our conversation on golden pennies, right? There's 8 out there. We currently utilize 5. There is a provision in House Bill 100 to be able to access one more golden penny without going to the voters, without an election. So that's something to keep an eye on. And if you'll remember too, one golden penny yields $1.25 million for Midway. Several other allotments they're proposing to be based on enrollment rather than ADA. And also they removed expiration of the fast growth allotment. So we do qualify for the fast growth allotment, and the proration reduced our allotment this year by $55,000. So all those together, as we kind of mentioned in our earlier meeting, we give the district about $1.5 million additionally compared to using the current school finance formulas. Any questions? And these are all, of course, subject to change. We'll keep you updated as things progress. You never really know, what happens. They'll get behind closed doors and kind of iron out, the differences as they progress. And the end of the legislative session is at the end of May, so we should know by then.
I was just gonna commend you on the summer projects. It's not as high as usual, so I don't know if we're doing a better job of keeping up with maintenance as we go.
Well, there
Just
are,
weren't
when
as
you,
many
when you
unknown
have a
items that
bond,
needed to be
bond
done,
funds
but-
available,
Yeah.
you can utilize, some areas we're already, doing some construction, you can kind of upgrade some things
But
while
I
you're
did
at it, so that does
That
help.
was good to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Wesley. Our School Health Advisory Council Annual Report, Anne Marie, SHAC for short.
Okay, we didn't have to, okay.
Good evening to the board, and thank you so much for your time and your service. Each year, the School Health Advisory Council is required to meet 4 times, and then we provide an annual update to the board about all of our agenda items, and then just anything that, if there were any changes or discussions that revolve around that SHAC will, that we provide updates to the board. So we did that. We met our 4 times this year, and then we have our update that I get to share with you tonight. I did want to recognize Deanne Klappus that's here tonight. She did serve as co-chair for SHAC, and we also had a parent rep serve as co-chair. That was Jerry Snyder, and Deanne is our coordinator for health services, and so it's amazing to have her on our SHAC to be able to keep us in the know of all of our updates and things in the district that are involved in our health services for students. There were more than 30 SHAC members that were present this year that attended our 4 meetings. Those SHAC members include community partners, parents, staff, and we even have student representatives. We're always so grateful and appreciative of the time that they give, because just as you know, as board members, it's time outside of your other jobs and duties, and so we always appreciate all of their involvement and commitment to SHAC. Each SHAC agenda is built around current events or needs in the district that fall into a category on the SHAC wheel. And so you can see many different areas are covered and discussed in each of those SHAC meetings. So we always want to be mindful that that's our driving goals in all of our agendas, is that we look at and that we continue to address and modify, add whatever we need to do in response to those things on the wheel. These are some of the items, maybe. Oh, wait, am I on? Yes. There we go. These were agenda items that we covered this year, just a few of them, not everything that's up there or everything that we discussed, but some of the key things, either presentations from community members or just different things going on within the district that we talked about, again, that covered those items on the SHAC wheel. We did do an update on our wellness plan, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. Some of the key things that I wanted to pull out of this list, one of them is digital citizenship and digital wellness, and that's because those are areas that we're really focusing on. So when we pull out some goals to address, seeing a need, get all the human monitoring reports, so our district monitoring of student emails, looking at some of the things that are posted online that are conversations and student emails, and we always want to really address that with students to be able to say, being mindful of those things and really teaching that digital wellness and digital citizenship. Sarah Collins in the district is working with us. Dawn Wobble is a parent that's working with us, and we're going to wrap that around coordinate that with our character traits that we're already teaching. So an example would be responsibility. When we're teaching the trait about responsibility, we're also teaching about responsible social media usage and email content and those things that we're posting online. The other thing I wanted to point out on here for an agenda item was our partnership with Baylor this year. We partnered, Baylor received a grant, so Dr. Tamara Hodges, many of you may be familiar with her, she and her PsyD students got a grant, and it's a 3-year grant, and so they asked Midway if we would partner. We said, absolutely, we love free things. And so it was really a great benefit because one of the things, and I know many of you on the board have served on SHAC with us, we continue to have the conversations about how do we address substance use in the district. We live in an area that's limited on not only mental health services, but also on substance use treatment. And so we want to bring in whatever we can to help support not only our students, but also our families. We want to make sure that they are given some resources as well. So this partnership has been great. We get them for another 2 years. We had 2 PsyD students that each were giving 10 hours a week for our students. So they were on the middle school campus providing education, prevention, lessons, and then they also did some treatment, just really working on motivational interviewing, talking to students, getting to the root of substance use to be able to help with that. They did a VIP night for us and did a parent presentation about things to look for. So if you suspect substance use or misuse, then what are some options for you? So that's been a great partnership. And again, we expect to see that continue to grow because we have 2 more years with them. And they're very excited about being with us, and we're excited to have them. Okay. So the last update from SHAC is about our wellness policy. So in FFA Local, we have our Midway ISD Wellness Plan. You should have a copy of the new one that has been updated. I wanted to make sure that you knew that we did not delete anything other than a specific item that was put in 2019 that was COVID related. So it's not about taking things out, but what we really wanted to do was take a look at the model wellness plan. It's provided by the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, and we use that and some TASB guidance, and then say, how can we make our plan be modeled after that and look. And it really, what we wanted to do is it be a reflection of what's in the district. There are so many areas of services that we have added to and things that we're doing for parents and students and staff that were not reflected in our wellness plan. And if we're going to use that as a guide so that every year we can look at it and go, okay, we've done this, now what do we do next? And how do we continue to add to that? Then it needs to be reflective of what we're doing. So we just went through, we met, every time we met as a SHAC, we talked about the wellness plan. We broke into subgroups in each of those areas. We got feedback, let's add this. This is happening in the district, let's make sure this is in there. So we went through the areas and then made those additions. So nutrition, our food services department is phenomenal. They're so much fun and they're so involved. And I love that every time we meet, not only do they provide us with food, but they also talk about how can we be more involved. And there are really, I could tell you some amazing stories of things that they've done on campuses to bring in culture with food and presentations that they've done with students and staff. So their area is always great in the wellness plan, and they know how to follow the USDA guidance in that too. Physical education and recess, the only thing that we changed was changing that the wording said pre-K through 4th, and now we're pre-K through 5th on those elementary campuses. All the information about the required minutes for PE, recess, that was all there and stayed the same. We did add many of the things that we're doing for community and family involvement. Instead of it just being a couple sentences about that, we wanted to say, let's talk about specifically what are we doing to involve parents, to bring community members, partnerships. We grow those and add to our list of community partners every year. So we wanted this to be reflected. And then again, like I said, it's always a guide. It lets us reflect on what we've done and then continue to add. Staff wellness was a really big topic this year at all of our SHAC meetings. We had presentations. One of our counselors at Hewitt Elementary came and presented on all the things that they were doing. It was pretty incredible, all the things that they were doing for staff wellness. We even had a SHAC member that's a business owner that said, I love your idea of a mobile cart for staff with wellness items on it. I'd like to give the money towards that. And so, you never know when you're talking to SHAC and your community's involved what you can do and get into your district. So again, lots of things that we've added, things that were already in place that we just continue to grow to make available for our staff to give them some support. And then student wellness, always talking about all the things that we can do for our students. So that is our community partners, our mental health and wellness fair, the character traits that we're required to teach by the state of Texas, and our Character Strong curriculum that we use for that, school safety, all of the information that's in there. I did want to give you an update. Last year was the year that we adopted, and you adopted as a board. Shaq presented to you the Choosing the Best curriculum. That was our sexual risk avoidance education. We reviewed it, we discussed it, and we decided that was what we wanted to go with. This is the first year that it's been implemented, and the first year we went to the opt-in. And so we have had really tremendous turnout, and it's been an effort on a lot of people to make those personal phone calls, to do online consent, getting forms out to parents, and then also paper. And I think most of our campuses are 95% or above on participation. So that was great, because we've heard from districts that have 30% or fewer participating. So we were really pleased with that. So those are all the things covered in student wellness. And again, like I said, we didn't take anything out other than one item that was specific to COVID that was put in 2019 policy. So I think it looks really good. Our SHAC worked really hard. We always do. I know many of you. I'm so grateful for your service on SHAC, that you've been a part of it. And so other than that, this is the one thing that we did have to bring before the board as a consent item, because this one would replace the current FFA local wellness policy that's there. So any questions about our work on the wellness plan?
Kind of a side question for Mrs. Smith. Since we've since we limit, the delivery of food onto the campus, I know what it used to be in prior years. Have you seen any kind of impact in terms of wellness? Any follow-up on that?
I'm not sure that we see impact on wellness. It's just, we know it's being served in the cafeteria. We know it fits the minimal nutrition guide, the FMND. We feel like it's better food that's being provided than a lunch from a local fast food establishment. And I will say that our nutrition department and Aramark has worked really hard to keep fun, new, exciting things coming on the line so that kids are interested. And they like the food that's there. I mean, my child is in there every day, so they enjoy it. I think they enjoy any of the new things that are put out there. And since the lunches have stopped coming in, it really has been a non-issue.
I was just curious, because it's been a pretty dramatic change for some of our kiddos.
On the, I know, I think last year we talked a little more about some of the details of the Stop It app and how that's being used. I know that's one of the areas where the work of the SHAC kind of crosses over into safety and security. So do we still feel like that's a great tool that we're using? Do we see a lot of appropriate use of that, not the Johnny cut in line kind of thing, but appropriate use of that, and also how that's integrated with, across our SROs and everything else? Do we feel good?
It's really great. I mean, there are always going to be the reports that are, so-and-so said my pigtails were ugly or whatever it may be. But really, in general, the reports are good. And it's good information to be able to follow up as a campus. It's good information for us to know from our side as support services, what more do we need to do and educate on. I know we're probably at about 1,600 reports so far since we started. So that's been about 2.5 years. And it continues to pick up, and parents use it too. So we encourage that. We say that's the point. It's an anonymous reporting. And they do it, and they're using it. And there's some good things that we're able to follow up on and either take care of kids when they're saying, I'm worried about somebody's mental health, or their physical safety or safety to the building. So we have gotten some really good things that we've been able to follow up on.
So, and in terms of that, I mean, a lot of times what you see is not just, hey, there's something happening right now to address, right? But you see trends across either a particular campus or across an age grade or something like that. So are we folding those back into sort of strategic plans for what should we do next year, and whether it's in classrooms or safety or something else? I mean, how are we able to do that?
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
some
And what's
examples.
great about Stop It is it runs some phenomenal reports, and you can break it down by type of report, campus level, and that's what our campuses look at. So that's a great place in the summer. We even have student survey data to really go over the summer to look at their responses, their feelings, but campuses can use that and then say, okay, we see a lot of reports about, vaping or whatever it may be, and then what are we going to do in response to that, and how are we going to help with that? So, yeah, thanks for asking.
Something else that came, that I saw on, I think, one of the neighborhood groups, about zoning and business zoning near Woodway Elementary and some of the businesses that are allowed to come in near the middle school. I don't know if that's something SHAC can get involved in, has been involved in, what you can do, but when we see vape stores and so forth opening up across the street from any of our campuses, I didn't know what kind of involvement on that, city government level you could have.
Yeah, and I think the biggest piece for us is always going to be educating the kids, because the information they get from their peers is not always the correct information, right? And so that's where we do have a role, is that, that's a part of what we're required to do, just like suicide prevention lessons and education, is that we continue to make sure they get correct information, not what's out there, not what they're hearing from media or anybody else, but what they hear that's factual, that's health implications, all of those things. So that's on us, to be able to continue to educate on that.
But if there's anything we can do to build a bigger fence around our campuses so that
Yes.
they're not right across the street from
See
harmful
that,
things.
yeah,
I want to make sure we're doing everything we can on that
Sure.
end too.
yeah. I agree.
Yeah, y'all do a great job.
Oh, yeah,
in a lot of
absolutely.
areas, and I like how you follow up on
Thank you.
programs you do put in place, and I like the new partnerships. The more we can
Absolutely.
vary the drug prevention, education pieces, and some of those things they hear all the time, safety online, the
Absolutely.
more kids we can reach. So I think that's
Yeah.
good.
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Anne Marie.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
All right, Gifted and Talented Program, annual update. Ashley.
Good evening. I'm here to give you the update for our GT program for the year, as required by the Texas State Plan. So some big rocks this year. We moved our, we tested over 600 students for our Gifted and Talented program this year and identified about 35% of them. We do have 27 appeals that are still pending, so that number could change slightly. About 11% of our midway population is identified GT in grades 1 through 12. The state average is 9, so we're slightly above that. And we've made progress in meeting the requirements of 2.25 of the Texas State Plan that we'll look at a little closer in just a moment. We've moved our elementary services to the home campuses this year, and it has been great. Our students are really enjoying being able to go to their specials classes. We've served 217 students through the new middle school Gate 1 and Gate 2 courses. We've established a GT advisory committee in accordance with the Texas State Plan. We've had 3 meetings so far, and our last meeting is coming up this Thursday. So our early projected numbers for next year are there for you. Slight increases on our campuses, which is what we want to see. And so we are finding those students that have been missed. COVID kind of threw a wrench in us being able to screen our kiddos, so we're picking them up. And there's the middle school numbers. So last year, we started really focusing on 2.25 of the Texas State Plan, which is the population of the Gifted and Talented Service Program is closely reflective of the population of the total district and our campuses. This was a huge issue for us because we were not reflective in our GT program. So this year, based off of our recently identified kiddos, we have made some strides in closing some of those gaps. But we are not there yet. So looking at our campus identification numbers, you can see there's a couple campuses, Castleman Creek, Hewitt, Spiegelville, Spring Valley, that their numbers are far below the district average for percentage. And looking at our demographics, what we hope for is that our identified students are the same percentage as our district demographics. So we're shooting at the Hispanic population, we're shooting for 26%. Last year, of the students that we qualified, 13% of them were Hispanic. This year, almost 17%. So if you'll see, there's an increase of over 3% in our Hispanic population in our GT program. Also see an increase in our Asian population as well as our Black population. So it's going to take some years to work that out and to become more representative, but we are on the right track.
Ashley, what are some of your methods to help that happen?
So the biggest thing is we have added the fifth grade screener, which we started last year. We've picked up a lot of fifth graders that missed identification because of COVID years, when parents just weren't referring. But also, as some of the older cohorts start to graduate, it will start to even out because we are top-heavy in certain cohorts. But we're also looking at some options like doing planned experiences at some of those campuses. If you notice, the campuses that were low were our Title I campuses. So they have different needs and providing some experiences prior to testing. So we're still talking about that. That's what our committee is tasked with, is kind of looking at what our issues are and how we can solve those.
Right, and I'm sure you've tried to help inform the parents more about these programs because they might not know about them, and
Yes, ma'am.
encourage them to have their kids tested. So
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
good.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? So this year, we had a GT advisory committee. Each campus provided a teacher or an administrator to serve and a parent. So there were 2 participants from each campus. We also had representatives from the Curriculum and Instruction Department, as well as the Midway ISD GT team. Our committee roles were to use the Texas State Plan and the handbook to evaluate our program, identify areas of growth, and provide some input, and be an advocate for not only our their GT students, but GT students across the district. So the first thing we did was evaluate our current services, and that is hyperlinked for you. It goes directly to the document that we used during our advisory committee. It is a live document, so as we continue to improve, that's going to be updated. We also created a plan of action as part of that, so you'll see a column that explains what our plan is or what we're doing. And then we did a SWOT analysis of our current GT model. This year was kind of the trial year. We didn't foresee some of the bumps in the road, but now we have been able to look at that and plan ahead so that we can take care of those before they occur. Our next steps are to make adjustments to our service model based on the recommendations from the SWOT, conduct surveys for annual evaluation for the students and parents, and synthesize those results to make final recommendations for program needs. A kind of celebration. Our GATE teacher at River Valley was a grant winner this year to gamify logical thinking. And so she just recently won that grant from Education Foundation. And I would like to personally invite you to our GATE showcase, which is this Thursday at the ITC building, and our elementary GT showcase that is in May. We would love to have you come look at the students' work for the semester. They will be showing it off, and it'll be a great night. Thank y'all.
Any questions on the board?
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ashley. Early childhood update, Stacy.
Good evening, Dr. Allen, President Russick, and members of the board. I am so excited to give you an early childhood update. As I was looking through files, we have not done one of these during my time here in Midway, so I am excited to share with you how we are meeting the needs of our youngest Panthers in MISD. A recent study by the CDC that was published in January of this year stated that early childhood education can counteract the disadvantage some children experience, improve their social and cognitive development, and provide them with an opportunity to achieve school readiness and lifelong employment, income, and health. And that's really the goals of our early childhood program here in Midway, is to get our students off on the right foot and prepare them for not just elementary school, but middle school and high school. So TEA establishes eligibility guidelines for our pre-K program. You have to be 3 years of age by September 1st to enroll in pre-K 3, and you have to be 4 years of age by September 1st to enroll in pre-K 4. And as you can imagine, our school year starts in August. So we actually have some students who are not quite 3 when they begin, and they're not quite 4. And actually the same holds true for kindergarten. We actually have some 4-year-olds who begin kindergarten because of that September 1st deadline. The 7 criteria have not changed from previous years, but I do want to highlight under the is considered homeless. That means if their parent, guardian, whomever they reside with, they're sharing a home, they may live in a hotel, that is considered homeless. I also want to let you know that if they've ever been in foster care, they qualify for pre-K 3 or pre-K 4. So that means they may have been adopted by a family several years before starting pre-K 3 or pre-K 4, but they will qualify. And then the Star of Texas Award, because I have received some questions from the community, because it applies to peace officers, firefighters, and emergency responders. It has to be someone who was injured or killed in the line of duty. And so that's just some clarifying information in case anyone were to receive any questions. So this year, we started our pre-K 3 program, so I just want to thank you for allowing us to embark on that new adventure. They have grown so much during the school year. At the beginning of the school year, those were the cars that were holding up the drop-off line, trying to get 3-year-olds out of the car. We've gotten faster as the year has progressed. Some of our parents know our drop-off and pickup staff that are outside. But we absolutely love them. We have 4 classrooms, so 74 students total at 3 of our campuses. And then pre-K 4 is on all 12 of our campuses, and some of our campuses have 2 sections, some have 1, and I'll get into the details about that. So to celebrate, we are serving 289 students in our pre-K program as of today. So just to show you our current enrollment for pre-K 3, Chapel Park has 18, Park Hill has 37 because they have 2 sections, and South Bosque has 19. At Park Hill, with our 2 classrooms, 1 classroom is a partnership with EOAC in Waco, which is essentially Head Start, and so the maximum number of students we can have in that class is 17. So we try to stay at a 20 to 1, or essentially 20 to 2 ratio in our pre-K 3 and 4 classrooms, so it averages out to a 10 to 1. In pre-K 4, you'll see our breakdown there. So Castleman Creek, Hewitt, Park Hill, and Woodway, you'll see their enrollment there. Again, we try to stay at a 20 to 2 ratio.
Dr. Voigt, question about
Yes, sir.
the breakdown of that, both for the pre-K 3 and pre-K 4. Are these students being assigned generally to campuses that will fit where we expect them to attend kindergarten, or are they just kind of moved around based on our needs for space, or how does that work?
Pre-K 3, since we only have it on
Right.
3 campuses, we try to place them at the campus closest to where they reside. For pre-K 4, yes, most of our students are at their home campus. However, because we try to stay staffed at 20 to 2, and I'll get into some of our campuses that have our early childhood program where they feed into those classrooms, we have a handful of students who are considered overflow, who are not at their home campus, but they will be for kindergarten. Thank you. So just some highlights. It's kind of a photo explosion, so I hope that these pictures brighten your day. We adopted the Frog Street curriculum in Pre-K4 2 years ago, and that was vetted by the teachers. They had several curriculums to choose from, and that's the one that they enjoyed the most and felt like it aligned with what we taught in kindergarten through 5th grade. And then when we started Pre-K3 this year, we were able to adopt the same curriculum. And then what's nice about the Frog Street curriculum, as I mentioned previously, it does align with Fontes and Pinnell Classroom as far as interactive read alouds, as you'll see on the picture on my left, your right. And then it also has math stations, as you'll see in the other picture. And our students, that's the learning modality they use in kindergarten through 5th grade. Another highlight, which is so exciting, some districts like Belton and Connolly have an early childhood center, which is powerful and nice to have. The nice thing about having Pre-K3 and Pre-K4 on our campuses is that they do get to interact with their peers. And the picture on the left shows what we call flexible grouping in kindergarten. So these are pre-K students who are going into a kindergarten classroom to receive their guided reading instruction. So we're able to capture those kids and allow them to interact and get the academic needs met. And then, as I mentioned, we have our early childhood special education programs at Hewitt, Park Hill, South Bosque, and Chapel Park. And so some of those students, through their individual education plan, we set time for them to go into a pre-K classroom for part of their day. So while we try to cap it at a 20-to-2 ratio, we do have some classes that are at 22-to-2 because a portion of the day we have some special education students who go in, and based on their needs, we may send another assistant with them. So that's something that's nice to have. Again, while an early childhood center would be very fun and powerful and lots of great things we can do, we would miss this opportunity with flexible grouping and meeting their needs. Another highlight that we have is we do have class sets of iPads in Pre-K3 and Pre-K4. Typically, our classrooms have 5, and so they typically use it for station work, practicing their alphabet, practicing numbers, perhaps working on handwriting. That's one of their centers, and that also exposes them to digital citizenship. As we know, the students that we are getting in our elementaries today are digital natives. That's all they've known. And so this just provides that opportunity. And then they do get to participate in special classes, which means PE, music, art, library, and then some of our campuses that still have a computer lab. And again, when we talk about grouping with kindergarten, most of our campuses have Pre-K4 join kindergarten for special classes, and the Pre-K aide goes with them. So that, again, provides some time with their peer group. While we have lots of highlights, we also have some challenges. We have limited enrollment for Pre-K3. So because we only have 4 classrooms on 3 campuses, and Pre-K3 is not required, we have had some students that we've had to turn away because we did not have space available. But I'm going to get into our solution on the next slide. Pre-K4 is ongoing enrollment. So anyone who moves or enrolls, if they meet one of the 7 qualifying guidelines, we do have to accept them. So we never close in Pre-K4. We also only receive half-day average daily attendance from the state. The state wants us to have full-day pre-K, but they only fund half of it. So the other half, thanks to Mr. Brooks, comes from either our early childhood allotment, compensatory education, or Title I funding. We do, as I said previously, we try to maintain a student-to-staff ratio of 20-to-2. Because of the ongoing enrollment for Pre-K4, we do have some overflow students. As Mr. Witt asked, we do have some. We do not provide transportation for Pre-K3 or Pre-K4 for overflow just because of the logistics in that regard. And unfortunately, we've had some families who've had to say, I won't be able to attend, but hopefully we will be able to capture them in kindergarten for the coming year. We do offer tuition base for our employees, and we just finished that registration and notified those employees on April 6th. We still offer it for our new hires. I received an email today about a new hire who's interested, so that provides that opportunity. And there are new TEA pre-K guidelines that are coming out for 23-24. One of those guidelines is if you qualify for pre-K 3, but you don't qualify for pre-K 4, automatically the next year you get to go ahead and roll up, and we get to code it as PEAMS as previously participated. So this little guy right here, he's in pre-K 3 this year. He may not qualify next year for pre-K 4, but because of the new guidelines, he will cycle up and still get to participate. And so looking to the future, I just want to let you know that on Saturday, we participated in Pre-K Awareness Day. That was sponsored by the Junior League of Waco and Region 12, and Midway ISD as well as Waco ISD and other service community agencies were there, and we were able to pass out information about our enrollment that starts May 1st, and then our Pre-K Preview Day that we're having in July. We did add 2 additional classrooms. Well, actually, it's only 1 additional classroom, but 2 additional campuses for Pre-K 3 for the coming school year. We're taking our second unit from Park Hill and moving it to Hewitt, and then we're adding a classroom at Woodway. So we will have 5 Pre-K 3 classrooms instead of 4. And then Pre-K 4, we will maintain that 12 classrooms that we have this year. We are just moving the second classroom from Woodway to Chapel Park to meet the growing enrollment that we're seeing there. Based on just the demographics and so forth. So we'll still have 12, but we're just shifting a few. Then we did complete employee enrollment. So as of today, we have 18 students who are enrolled in Pre-K 3 and 37 in Pre-K 4. And then we increased tuition for our employees to $500 per month for a total of $5,000 instead of $450, which is what it was this year, and that includes their Panther Kids tuition. And so to a certain extent, our early child program through our employees is a revenue building situation for us, so that's nice. And then we are changing our model for Pre-K Kindergarten Roundup. What we have encountered in the past is we have parents who would come to Roundup or drive up and then forget to register online when it opened in July because they thought, well, I've already done all that in May. So we're changing it to a preview day on Monday, July 31st. From 4:30 to 6 on all of our elementary campuses. So they'll get to tour the school, meet their teachers, and kind of get the lay of the land like we typically would have done at a kindergarten roundup. So we're excited about it. We picture red carpet, balloons, all kinds of fun stuff for those kids. And then I just want to close by sharing 2 student success stories with you. The young man on the left is a student who was struggling just a bit and not quite making the progress that we hoped he would. We were providing intervention. We were providing some small group work, just lots of things to help him grow when he wasn't moving as fast as his peers. And then through our vision and hearing process with the nurse, we realized he could not see and he could not hear. So you'll see in this picture now he has glasses and he has his hearing aid. Now his shoes are on the wrong feet, but we'll work on that. But he is certainly a success story. Just last week, his teacher was able to get the microphone device too that she can talk into and he can hear her. So they have a good time where she just whispers to him and only he can hear her. And so they have a good time with that. So he truly is a success story. And then on the flip side of the coin, this is a young girl who is in Pre-K 3 whose native language is French. But we noticed in beginning of the year, she was really excelling, like way ahead of her peers. So our reading specialist did a reading record with her, and she, in October, was reading on a first grade level. So these are 2 students that we were able to capture through our early childhood program on both ends of the spectrum, but they are certainly just 2 examples of success stories we see every day in our early childhood program. So in closing, I just want to share another quote about the benefits of early childhood education and intervention. It just says, children who receive early childhood education are more likely to graduate from high school and 4 times more likely to complete a bachelor's degree. They're also less likely to face academic problems, which includes repeating grades. And then once these children do graduate, they tend to earn more in the workforce. So there are lots of advantages to having our early childhood program. And then I just want to close by saying thank you. Just let you know that you are always extended the invitation to visit a pre-K 3 or pre-K 4 classroom. If you're ever having a bad day, they will just brighten your day because they'll ask you if you're someone's mom or you're someone's dad. Sometimes they'll share their snacks, sometimes they won't, but they are just delightful. And we are going to, I'm going to use the term track loosely, but we are going to keep track of these students who are in pre-K 3 and see how they do in pre-K 4, in kindergarten, and so forth. So thank you again for investing in pre-K 3 for this year. We're excited about adding another classroom and then, of course, having the opportunity to do some shifting with the realignment of attendance zones to meet our kids' needs. But again, you're welcome to visit pre-K anytime, even if you just need a hug, and then nap time's in the afternoon. So if you need a nap. So thank you so much.
Stacy?
Yes, ma'am.
If we have a student that meets these eligibility but lives outside of the district, would there be a scenario where we might have space for them? Do we transfer into pre-K ever? Is that?
We typically have not taken transfers in pre-K, but I can certainly visit with Dr. Pena and Dr. Allen to see if that's something we want to consider. Of course, Dr. Odojima oversees transfers as well. Sure. We typically do not, in the past, have not accepted transfers because pre-K never closes, right, and we have to accept them. And then this year with pre-K 3, we had to close it on our own because we didn't have space.
I understand.
Yes.
That picture's worth it just for the Santa Believes
Yes.
in Me shirt alone.
Yes, that was at Christmas. They invited me to come read, and the teacher said they were having a hard time staying quiet, and I had brought Hershey Kisses, so I told them these are magic kisses that'll keep you quiet. That lasted about 2 minutes, but we tried. So
2 minutes. Dr. Wood, I just wanted to acknowledge your work on this and extend a word of appreciation to you. We had a staff vacancy.
Yeah.
And you took on pre-K as an additional, like other duties as assigned.
I love it.
Obviously by this report, I think it's obvious to everyone how hard you've worked at it and the good job that you've done. And I just wanted to remind folks that this is something that you didn't plan your year thinking that you were going to be working with so closely, but you've done a great job picking it up and running with it. So thank you for your extra work.
Right. Thank you so much. I really do love it. And again, just contact me anytime if you want to go get a hug.
So you mentioned
Yes,
tracking the kids next year. Do we have any long-term data on just outcomes? Because we've had pre-K for a while now.
Right.
I know the general information that's out there. I don't know if we have any specific data on our students.
Sure. We do keep data from our students who are in pre-K 4 and how they're doing in kindergarten, but it's kind of stopped after kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then this past year was a little bit of an anomaly because we went from 6 campuses to 8. So there was a lot of shifting. And so that's a priority for what I call my elementary dream team with Miss Hani and Miss Johnston. That's one of our tasks is when we get our 3K list to close out the year, they do the circle test. Which is provided free by the state. We do the circle assessment beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. And so once we get that assessment, we'll compare it with our PEAMS roster for pre-K 4 and keep track of those kids. So we're going to start basically tracking them now.
Okay, that'd be good.
Yes, it would be powerful to see and really see who maybe needs RTI support later, who is maybe on the docket to be retained because we really don't want to retain these kiddos. Believe it or not, TEA did pass a bill last year that parents can ask for a student to repeat pre-K, and we've had a couple parents already ask for that. And I'm like, please give them another chance, but that's the way the current bill's written.
Well, I can imagine there being a time when we're asked to provide more financially to this
Yes.
program. It'd be good to have some data to back that up and know
Absolutely.
what we're investing in.
Yes.
So.
Thank you for asking. I will say that speaking of bills, there is a bill in the legislative session to provide pre-K free for employees of a district, but it would be the same ADA funding where they only provide half of the funding and we would provide the other half. So that would be a great perk for our employees. We would just have to ask for some cash.
Well, and he turns around and asks us, so.
Well,
it's,
then I'll ask you.
Yeah.
I'll take you on a field trip because when you see them, you'll be like, wow. And it is just amazing, as I said before about pre-K 3, how much they have grown from August to now. It is very fascinating to see. We see it in pre-K 4, but just really, you're talking about really littles in pre-K 3. So it's very amazing to see what they've done.
Yep.
So I really appreciate you investing in this program. They are just, I love the littles, so they speak my language.
I'd love to see you back working with the littles. I think that's a great fit.
Thank
you for everything, Stacy.
Recruitment and retention update, ma'am.
Do we get to sing?
Dr. Knudsen,
Yes.
before you do your presentation, is there anything about today in particular that?
No, nothing
No.
about today important at
This
all.
particular.
Oh, come on. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ashley. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
It's like
And that's
20
our gift.
29
We're gonna
again,
give you
right?
lots of
That's
money.
right.
Is that
29
That's
again.
right, 29 again. Don't I look it?
Yeah,
29 and holding, is that what you said?
right.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for the serenade. And thank you for the opportunity to visit with you about recruitment and retention efforts that we currently have in place. In my short time in this role, I have learned so many things, but most important is that we have the people in place to support the very programs we've heard updates on tonight. We need to be able to provide high-quality staff, and it is very important that we not only get them here, but that we keep them. And so we have had a lot of conversations in the HR department this year in conversations with Tracy Marlin, with our principals, with our executive team on where are we now and where do we need to go to make sure that we are drawing the right folks here, that we are keeping them here, and that we're supporting their growth while they are here. So tonight, I'm just going to give you a quick overview. Some of this may sound familiar, especially with us just having our board workshop prior to this meeting tonight. But I just wanted to sort of bring together collectively some data that we have gathered through a variety of means throughout this school year. Understand first, going into this year, that we faced a turnover rate of teachers, librarians, and professional staff of 24%. So we realized post-COVID that there is a lot going on. There's a lot of complex issues with our hiring season that we are in, but we really are needing to drill down into the why. And what we need to be able to provide and respond to in order to draw staff here into our profession and to keep them here and to train them while they're here. So this year we have done 3 really big things to gather some data on helping us to work on this effort. We conducted a thought exchange survey that was back in January, and we surveyed not only current employees but also parents, students, and other community members, and we gathered some open-ended thought response there. It was very popular, very quick, and we got a lot of rich data and anecdotal data there that we started to divide out thematically. We went to a Google survey format, asking the same questions and prompting the same, requesting the same information, but we added to that Google survey former employees. We looked at employees that have left the district in the last 5 years and reached out to them for anonymous input on recruitment and retention efforts that would have made an impact for them, continuing with our current staff, our parents, community, and students as well with that survey. And then we did partner with TASB HR Services. We hired them to conduct a pay systems maintenance. You'll remember last year we worked with TASB to do not only a salary review but a staffing review, and so the pay systems maintenance review with TASB is a way for us to keep up to date on the market values that we're working with, making sure that our compensation package and salaries are responsive to market value and surrounding districts and area economy as well.
So looking at all of the information that we have gathered in those data points this year, we've been able to take information and break it down into 6 themes. And if you'll look across the top, these themes, this should look familiar. We sort of themed this out in our Thought Exchange platform so that we could take ratings that all of our respondees or responders, how they rated these thoughts and where they fell in the themes. And really everything is important. Almost all 6 of those themes fall above 4 stars of importance, if you'll recall how the Thought Exchange works. But at the very top is compensation. One of you asked in our board workshop what we're doing in the other areas, how we're making sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our staff in not just by way of compensation, but in other needs as well. And you can see there things such as workload, culture and climate in the workplace, behavior management with our students. These things are all very important, and they're things that we as a district are taking on as tasks to be responsive to. We're prioritizing those. We're breaking these themes into teams so that we can focus on these bits and pieces. It's not only about what comes out on top. It's really about all of the ways that we are meeting the needs of our staff. And we also need our staff to know we're listening. Our staff, our community, our parents provided feedback. Some of them that aren't even with us anymore that said, you know, it was lost on me, but if I could make a difference, this is what would be important. And for us to be listening to this and being responsive to it, communicating with our teachers, with our staff, with our parents and community on how we're being responsive is very important to us. So you will hear more about these themes and how we're addressing them in the future. Tonight we're talking about compensation specifically. And in our work with TASB, they really break out looking at compensation in 4 objectives, working to meet 4 objectives. Recruiting employees is very important. Think about that 24% turnover rate. We've got to be able to draw people here. We've got to be competitive not only with our entry rates, but for people who are bringing experience to the district. Once they get here, we've got to keep them here. So we've got to look at how we're also meeting the needs and being responsive to market rates with people who have been with us, who maybe were brought in years ago under different market conditions, and how we're being competitive and keeping them. Also looking at job value. We look at people on a spread within the pay grade that they are in, and we take things into consideration such as their experience and the value of the job, especially in the current market and in our district. And then having to balance all of that with the budget that we're working within. So TASB pulled together a group of school districts to use as a market comparison. There are 17 districts on this list that were used. The majority of them are Region 12. There are a couple outside of the region that were used for comparison. Not all of them provide a full plethora of data for us to use as comparison, and so the ones that provide teacher salaries, for example, or that TASB was able to get the teacher salary scales on, we are able to do a comparison for teacher salaries, and then for positions outside of the teacher salary, they are able to do a comparison as well. Last year, you will remember that we made some movement in our teacher plan specifically because when Midway's teacher plan was compared to those market districts on the teacher plan alone, we are doing pretty well in the entry level pay and the salary for our 0-year teachers and even to 5-year. We're doing pretty well compared to our market districts. Where we begin to fall below those districts is at the 10-year mark and higher. Last year, we saw that same trend and made some adjustments specifically to those experience categories to narrow the gap there, and we did make some great strides there. But it's a moving target, and as we react, so do our market districts. And so this chart shows where we currently sit in this year's comparison with those market districts, and so our proposal is to continue to work on those 10, 15, 20-year salary ranges to add additional adjustments to pay increases so that we can continue to narrow that gap and maybe even get above the market line there. This provides a 5-year historical look at our approach to salaries and pay raises on the general pay increase. So 5 years ago, we gave a 2% pay increase to all staff. That was on the salary. In 2019-2020, we actually took a tiered or mixed approach to addressing pay increases. You can see the breakdown there, a 2.5% to our administrators and professional positions and our early experience teachers, a 3% as we sort of moved up through the teacher scale, added in counselors, librarians, and nurses there, 3.5% to our more experienced teachers, and 4% to support staff and auxiliary. And I don't know all of the conversation that went into that approach, but I think there was an attempt there as well to sort of address some of those higher experienced teachers, making sure we can recruit and retain in those more experienced levels there. In 2020, 2021, we lowered our approach in our GPI, and then the last couple of years we've been fairly consistent with 2% and 2.5%. The significant change last year on the GPI specifically is that we began the approach of adding that on the midpoint, taking that percent on the midpoint rather than the salary itself. And that looks specifically at where we are making adjustments with the market to stay competitive with the market so that our teacher and other staff can feel their pay raise on the market value as opposed to staying stagnant on their salary. So you may be thinking this is a little bit early to be talking about a compensation plan. Normally, the compensation plan is adopted as a part of the budget in August. Last year, with the salary and staffing study that was brought to you, you considered a pay structure and supported the pay structure for consideration in April. What that did was help us in our conversations as we're hiring staff for the new year. When you approved that pay structure last April, we were able to share with staff what they could expect. Current staff could have an idea of what they were going to be able to expect as a general pay increase, and new hires knew what they were signing up for. And so we are coming to you tonight asking for you to consider supporting an adoption of the compensation plan now rather than waiting until August so that we can continue having those conversations at this time. And so let me talk you through what our recommendation is and then entertain any questions you might have as you consider this. You'll see here that we are recommending another tiered approach to general pay increase, similar to what we did in 1920. We're looking at a 3% for teachers and librarians, and that number there represents a increase on the midpoint for those positions, but also would consider market adjustments and any in-house adjustments that we need to do to make sure that the positions in that area remain competitive. For our professional and administrative positions, we're looking at recommending a 2% general pay increase, and again, considering some additional market adjustments as needed within that. And then a 4% general pay increase for our paraprofessional and auxiliary staff. We don't yet know what our health insurance contribution might be. We do anticipate a little bit of an increase from last year, but we won't know those numbers until later in May or possibly June. We have already talked with you about positions, additional positions for next year. And last month, you approved $1.5 million in new positions that we've already started hiring for next year, and that's represented there. So taking a look overall at what we're asking for you to consider tonight, some of this is sort of going out on what we know now and making assumptions that if the legislative session brings any additional things that we need to consider, we have some room to respond to that. And also, once we know solid health insurance contribution numbers, we'd be able to respond to that. We're asking for an overall consideration and approval tonight of a compensation plan not to exceed $4 million. That would allow us to work with the numbers that we have here and the projections we've made, and also have some room to respond once we have some additional information from legislative session and health insurance.
Questions from the board?
That's a heck of a birthday present you're asking for.
That's right.
Do we need to wrap it?
But she didn't ask for it to be wrapped.
Yeah.
Well,
Just out of curiosity, what's the response been from former employees you mentioned earlier? Have you gotten pretty good response from former people willing to speak on their issue?
Because it was anonymous, yes. We got some, and even some employees reached out wanting to make sure it was okay that they were honest. But yes, I can't tell you a number. I don't know if we've like broken it down to know how many or a percentage of who responded or how many of our respondents were former employees, but there was some very candid, most of this was qualitative in nature. Lots of commentary that we've sort of taken in and are teasing out through themes. But we were very pleased to have some input. We also get input regularly through exit surveys as employees are leaving. And we've started to ask some additional pointed questions when they have an exit interview or request an exit interview so that we can continue to add to that data.
Is the exit interview done at their campus, or is it done at here at Central?
It is done electronically, and through the electronic exit interview, they can request a face-to-face. And if they do request a face-to-face, then we bring them into the HR department and visit with them.
Gotcha.
Well, I know that, the single biggest part of our budget every year is paying people.
Right.
Because, we can have all the nice buildings and technology that we want, but we need to keep good people. So I applaud the directions that we're looking to go to make sure we can do that and stay competitive. I think the bigger question will be, this year, next year, the following years, how do we compete with not just other school districts, but how do we compete with people leaving education in general to go other places? And so I think that may be the next sort of nut to crack and try to figure out what is there other than salary that might keep them here, because it's going to be really hard to compete on salary.
And that's a great point, and that's why those other themes that are coming in, workload, culture, support, behavior management, and growth and development of what they're doing in-house is going to be so important. We can't just look at one thing. We've got to look holistically. It's a great point.
Ashley, how does what y'all have gathered through the data points you talked about at the very beginning of this presentation compare with the governor's task force on teacher retention?
Very much aligned. Compensation and benefits is top priority coming out of that as well. And student behavior has been top. Post-COVID, there have been new challenges, and the tricks of the trade haven't been as successful. And so we're needing to equip teachers in new ways and needing to find new ways to work with students. And those are two top things in the governor's findings as well.
Other questions, folks?
Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. And thank you for the beautiful serenade.
Well, we couldn't get the chamber singers over here in time.
Okay, we're moving to the consideration items. We've got the consent agenda minutes from our March meetings, our out-of-district transfers for next school year, the budget amendments Wesley referenced, a notice of intent to change our fiscal year start date, our instructional materials allotment for next year, number of early graduation requests, and out-of-state trip, what we've done for the past several years, delegate hiring authority to the superintendent for a fixed period of time, and then the wellness plan that we heard about. Does any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Witt,
Second.
second by Ms. Watts. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. It is that special time of year, folks, the last board meeting before the date when we would have an election if we were having elections, and state law requires each school district to announce at this meeting, or their last meeting before their board election, where board members stand on their continuing education / training requirements. So to meet that obligation, the board members exceeding the required hours of training are Mr. Alford, Mr. Green, Mr. Tullis, Ms. Vick, Mr. Witt, and myself. Pam has 5 hours that she needs to get. I feel like it's important, even though noting that she's never been deficit before. and there were extenuating circumstances, to say the least, of why she doesn't have her 5 hours, and she will have it done by May 23rd. And the last thing that I'm required to say, so everybody knows how serious this is the completion of the required annual training is an obligation and expectation of any board member under State Board of Education rules. So,
They don't like you coming to TASB when you have COVID. I was told.
yeah, and I just didn't understand that, Pam. I mean, you were going to wear a mask,
Yeah,
right?
So, first
Yeah.
one I've missed, and I was sorry not to be there, but.
Well, and you were missed. Consider and take appropriate action regarding the 23-24 compensation plan. We need any further discussion on that, folks, after a workshop and the presentation? Need presentation from the administration on it.
I feel duly informed.
If not, then I will simply entertain a motion to approve the administration's recommendation on the plan as presented, along with delegation of the authority to the superintendent to make adjustments post-legislatively, subject to the cap that
Not to exceed $4 million.
not to exceed $4 million.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Vick,
Second.
second by Mr. Green. Certainly an opportunity to discuss and ask questions. Folks have them.
We covered it a lot coming into tonight's meeting.
Yeah, but my only question would be, I'm assuming over the next couple of meetings, as legislative things happen or whatever, you'll be able to report to us kind of where we're landing the plane on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And there's the possibility that the ledge passes rules that pushes
this
us
easier.
over the 4 million.
Okay.
And should that happen, I will have to come back to the board to receive authorization because of that cap that gives just a little wiggle room, mostly to deal with potential changes in benefits.
Right. That's great.
Other questions or discussion from the board?
It's necessary.
Well, I echo Colin's comments from a minute ago. I think it's important, and I think that to the credit of the district, the administration, the board, I think we've been very proactive, and I think that's something that compensation isn't everything, but it's going to continue to be important, and I think we need to continue to be attentive to it going forward, not just through this legislative cycle, but each year. It's one of those things we're going to have to do.
Right, we want to match, try to match the midpoint at least to it.
So, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Personnel, we have, as indicated, already hiring for the 23-24 school year, a significant number of professional recommendations as new hires for 23-24. Unless somebody has a question about any one of those folks, I'll entertain a motion to approve the professional recommendations for new hires for 23-24.
I'm really glad to see a
Anything you want
big
to say about this
list.
new chemistry teacher? Is there anything we want to hear about the new chemistry teacher at the high school?
I think we need to know whether they passed the criminal history record check, but that's just me.
That's his wife.
I was going to say, I think it's great to see a long list of people we're bringing in. I think that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
Absolutely. No.
But that's still not a motion by anybody.
Sorry, so moved.
Thank you, Ms. Watts. Motion by Ms. Watts.
Second.
Second
I'm
by
going to be a
Ms.
smart aleck, I better step up to the plate here.
Thank you. Second by Mr. Witt. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion also carries unanimously. And then we have contract recommendations. Also, a extensive and impressive list. And again, unless a board member has questions in general or specifically about any of those, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract recommendations by the administration as presented in the board packet. We don't have an addendum on that one, do we? That's just what's already in the board packet?
Correct.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Watts,
Second.
second by Mr. Alford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion also carries
I
unanimously.
realize you've already voted, but where do we stand then, right now? Do we know in terms of positions to fill, or kind of what do we think? Or do we know yet? Is it too early to know?
We're busy.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure where we are on the number of unfilled currently. I'm looking over there, Julie, and I'm gonna put her on the spot, but our principals have been so busy. Working to get these positions that seem by there, so, we're feeling good at this point. We've been very proactive.
Is there anything else we can be doing that we're not already doing to help?
Phone friend.
So asking a slightly different question than Collins, you talked about 24% last year. Any idea what the percentage is likely to be this time?
Our hope was 15%. We were really wanting to bring that down. We are in a much better place currently with how many we've lost compared to last year. And so, we've got 6 weeks to go.
Right.
And a summer ahead of us, but, we are ahead of where we were last year in a good way.
Good, good. Any other personnel items we need to take up out here then? This time? All right, if not, we're going to go to superintendent's communications.
I am going to speak briefly about our Teachers of the Year. If you've been paying attention to Parent Square or other social media, you will notice that our elementary Teacher of the Year is Di Copeman, and Beth Zilhoff is our secondary Teacher of the Year. Very exciting. We'll do a big deal to blow it out in August and all that. But what I want to talk about just briefly for a moment was listening to the folks who were on the interview committees talk about the process. And the agony, I'm looking at Dr. Voigt, she's nodding, that they had in trying to pick there's Dr. Sapp, just one. And the reason I want to talk about that for just a moment is that Ms. Copeman and Ms. Zulhoff are clearly champions of the district. And I look forward to the day that we celebrate them in a way that is worthy of this recognition. But if we think that they're the only ones we have, we are sadly mistaken. Listening to the committee's struggle with trying to determine how to take so many fantastic teachers who are changing children's lives every day and doing things that are hard to describe because it's just not believable. And narrow that down to one person to receive this kind of accolade was, quite frankly, it was heartwarming. And I wish more people could hear it. I wish they could. Knowing who the winners are is one thing. Hearing the deliberations is something entirely different. And we're excited to put these two forward to the next round in the regional competition. I guess that's what we call it. But the regional level, is that better, Ms. Marlin? And then we'll go from there. But please know they are equals amongst peers. And we were talking earlier about why do people come here. Part of the reason they come here is because they know the type of teammates they're going to get to join when they're employed in our district. And I just appreciate Ms. Copeman and Ms. Zulhoff so much for carrying the mantle that comes with this type of recognition and for being the kind of folks that we can point to and say, if you want to come to a place where there are teachers, not one, not two, but many like this, just look at them. And so I just want to share a little bit about what went on behind the scenes with our Teacher of the Year recognition.
We did promote our finalists, did we not? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah.
I sometimes forget what I've seen on social media, sadly.
That
But
was in March.
yeah, I've slept since then, but I was following that. And like you said, a lot of great names, a lot of great folks.
Fantastic. That's it.
Okay.
I'm not going to rail on the ledge or anything. That's it.
They're just too easy of a target,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, sir.
Take the high road.
Yeah, 8:39, we're going to go into closed session under 551.074 briefly.
Thank you. Go ahead and start. We're in the room. We had to get our pledge treats. Thank you for the. Yeah. Is it currently? Yeah. Go ahead and have what's left.
All right, I have 9:10, we're out of closed session. We have an agenda item to review, consider, and take appropriate action regarding referral of investigation to an employee grievance to our outside counsel. Do we have a motion to approve that agenda item?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Tullis. Second. Second by Mr. Alford. Any discussion or questions from the board? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Out of agenda items, we're adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Ready to break.